How you doing? I'm Michael Kidd with Kidd Lawn and Tree again. I'm talking about part 2 of the quarter wrap system lowering device. You can use it for raising and lowering. Now I'm going to show you how to load the lowering line into the device, how to lower the piece, and how to raise the piece if you have to raise the tip up off a house, depending on kind of an obstacle you're around, or anything that you may actually have to raise it with. I'm going to show you a couple of tips. So let's just start off. You've already got your quarter wrap set up at the ground. You got your climber up top, and he's got his pulley up, and he's got it tied to the limb he's going to lower. Okay, where he's going to want you to lower is the ground guy. So what you're going to do is, in order to load this into the system here, first you pick your system up, take a bite of line, which is basically a loop in the line, pass it through the top, okay, down around that bottom bollard so it holds it in place like so. Okay, now to take the slack out, you can do it by hand. If you're just lowering it, you don't have anything underneath where the limb can't drop right away, you can do it by hand. Okay, now the slack is taken out. Okay, so I'm going to raise this up a couple of feet so you can see how to lower it. Okay, so let's say we have this. Now what we're going to do is, depending on how big the piece is, and until you get used to how many wraps you should take, I would always go with more wraps first because it gets you in less trouble. So let's say this piece is 10-12 feet long piece, maybe about a foot in diameter. What I generally like to do is about 3 to 4 wraps, so we'll just take 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, with this enormously huge bag, that's way too many. But just for the sake of just telling you how big a piece is and how much to take a wrap on, you'll have to feel it out, but I would always go more first. Okay, now that you have your piece, your climber's cut, and it is slammed into the rigging, you can either slam it or let it ease into the rigging. Let's just say that it's strong enough where you let it slam and you couldn't just lower it right away. So now the groundsman has to lower it to the ground. Well, what he'll do is he'll stand back out of the way and hold it in hand. This piece is secured off. All he's got to do is hold it in one hand. And he goes to lower it, and it's not really moving because there's enough friction here to keep that from moving. What we'll do is we'll take a wrap off. Use your hand to pinch it to the device, take a wrap off. Okay, now we're going to lower it. Still too much friction. That's fine. It's no big deal to take friction away. It's a little harder to put friction on as you go to do it because you're already under load and you're trying to stop it. So once again, pinch the rope, take your wrap off, and let's see if we can lower it now. Okay, it's coming down, but for the sake of you seeing it, we're going to go ahead and take it off. Okay, so now I'm going to lower this piece to the ground. And I don't know if you can tell with the bag being there, but you can see how the piece is being lowered to the ground with the friction being held in the vise. Probably needed a bigger piece of experiment here. Okay, now that it's down to the ground, you want to take the slack out of the system. You can unload the device. Okay, same way you loaded it. Just take it all off reverse. Okay, well, let's say that we need to rig this piece to where we need to raise it up off a house, or we just can't let it, how do I say this? You can't let it fall, and you have to pick it up. So when you use your hands to load the system, it puts just enough tension on it to where it'll drop a little bit. If you can use mechanical advantage to put tension in the system, that piece pretty much won't drop at all, depending on how you have it rigged up. Let's just say we can't let this piece drop at all, or we have to raise the tip up. Okay, once again, you're gonna load your system. One thing that I forgot to mention that's very critical. Okay, you can see the way that I have this set up here. The line coming from the block comes down to the pulley, quarter wrap rather, and then goes around the pipe and then makes several wraps. The direction that it goes around the pipe is very crucial to how the system works. Okay, so let's say for instance, when he starts to wrap this, it needs to go in the direction that's straightest, if that makes sense. Okay, you don't want it to bend down like that, because then that doesn't work. It binds up and is unsafe. So you want it to stay, make it stay straight, if that makes sense. You don't want to bend it over, you just want it to go straight. Alright, so let's say we have the system set up. We want to put more tension in it, or we want to raise the piece. What we're going to do is we're going to lock it off by putting a half hitch, twisting it around the top or the bottom, and securing it off. And then do the one to the opposite end, which is the bottom or the top. Tighten it to secure it off. Alright. Let me get some more, put some more weight in this thing. Maybe it won't feel so light. Okay. You can use a fiddle block set, but one thing that I know from doing the job I haven't done it for a long time, but just doing it, is that you typically have some things laying around that you can make work. For instance, I'm sure you have an old prusik, or maybe even can make a prusik that you can tie off to the line and use that as friction. An old lanyard, and a couple of old carabiners. Set this system up, and a pulley. You can use fiddle blocks, you can use a system dedicated to it to give you more mechanical advantage. And depending on the weight of the item that you're going to be raising or putting tension into, you may have to use a bigger mechanical advantage like a fiddle block. But for the sake of the demonstration here, one pulley will be fine. Now you can use a Swabish prusik, a Swabish knot, you can use a French prusik, you can use any kind of friction hitch that you would like on the line coming from the pulley down to the quarter wrap in order to raise it. How you would do it, you just tie it in line like you would normally do if you were climbing on it. And I'm just going to use a French prusik. Tie dress and set it. Okay, you have that set up. You want to put a carabiner through that top. So that's what's going to hold the pulley. Okay. Alright. Now you have that set up. Okay. What you want to do now is take your pulley, hook it to that top carabiner. And you can do this one of two ways. You can use an extra lanyard, which I prefer because you're not adding friction to the system, and I think you'll understand what I mean. However, this way is good for taking quick slack out of the rope, or out of the item to be lowered, to where you take the item through the quarter wrap, or put the rope through the quarter wrap. You take one wrap. Okay. By doing this, you're adding friction by taking your wrap, but by adding the pulley, it kind of helps in a way. So it's getting more than one person can do with just pulling. Okay. Take the end of your line here, your lowering line, pass it through your pulley. Okay, now what you can do is, if you can see the bag over there, which is not too heavy, but it gives you an idea, is you can pull down, and as you pull down, it creates a 2-to-1 style, possibly a 3-to-1, I'm not sure, in lifting the item. I'm not pulling very hard, and it's capturing the slack out of it too with the pulley, which is a good thing. So once you get it down low enough to where you want to advance the pressica, you grab the line coming from the bottom of the pulley, slide your pressica up further, and then you can get back to raising it, and just continue there. Okay, let's say you have enough tension in it and you want to take this system off, because you can't lower that piece without undoing it. Have your worker lock it off with a half hitch around the back bollard. Now the piece is being suspended or being held on. All the tension that you saved here, or that you got here, is still there. You would undo your pulley, lowering line system, take off your pressing. Okay? And then you can go lower it after you make your cuts and everything else. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a different way to raise the piece. Okay, so sorry it's windy, it's awful cold out here. What we're going to do now is we're going to set it up the same way, where you have your pressing up with your friction hitch, carabiner, and pulley up top. The only difference is you're going to take a spare lanyard that you have, spare rope, spare lanyard, whatever you want to call it. You're going to clip it to the top of the device, up through the pulley. Okay, now this is a two-person operation typically, but if you got a coordinated ground guy, he can do it with one person. So let's say he wants to pull the slack out of the line. The only difference with this system is, the way this is set up, is that it doesn't take the slack out for you when you pull down, if that makes sense. You have to do it yourself. So you're going to have to pull the tension into the system using the lanyard, and then while you have the system held, you're going to have to take the slack out where the quarter wrap is. Okay? Make sure you lock it off. And then you can slide your pressing up again. Take more slack. Okay? You can it's easier with two people to do this than one person can do the raising device, the raising system. The other person can take the slack out so you can keep the progress you've already had. Okay? With this system, with the quarter wrap that I built, I've dropped some pretty big chunks in it. Pieces that I probably wouldn't have normally dropped on just doing wraps around the tree. The benefit of this system is that you can tie it off to the base of the tree that you're on. You can tie it off to an adjacent tree, any way, shape, or form, but it doesn't damage the tree with running rope around it. If you have any questions, please hit the like button, share, favorite, and subscribe. Ask me in the comments below.